Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 quick match gameplay. This time around, it is going to be a bit of a Wood Elf double cast, both with Vanguard builds, and this first one is on the Sea of Chaos Isle against the force of the Skaven. And it's a bit of a quick-paced one. Vanguard builds against Skaven, definitely a lot of fun, definitely have a lot of potency. And I figured that we're going to try something a little different than previously and actually ditch the Way Watchers. Now that Dooms players are in more of a decent, passable position and more manageable, I decided we don't really need that much AP necessarily, or AP ranged. We can probably deal with them with Cav. And so that's kind of what the build's built around. For my Lord, we are rolling with Orion. Not much to be said for him. We did bring the Horn of the Wild Hunt because I wanted to see if we could get that uber charge bonus on our Wild Riders. Bumps them up over, I do believe, over 100 charge bonus, which is pretty insane. Also did want to have, of course, the Hawk's Talon, Hounds of Orion, and Cloak of Isha makes Orion very, very tanky. He can deal with blobs relatively well, and of course with Fear, Terror, Unbreakable, he's an absolute beast and a nightmare for the Skaven to deal with. Now, for our front line here, we do have two heroes mixed in. We do have a Branch Wraith providing magical support for the front line. She does have the Other Trickster Shard, which grants debuff to nearby enemies, making Dryads a bit more effective at damage dealing because it reduces enemy magic resistance. Also grants +5 melee attack. Spoken Mirror is definitely nice for gap closing. While cost management to weaken units. Withering in case I need to deal with Storm Vermin. And finally, Earthblood to, of course, heal our front line. Our second hero here is a Waystalker with Arrow of Kurnus, ready to chip away at enemy lords, heroes, that sort of thing. Especially lords like heroes like assassins, plague priests, Lord Skrulk, the engineers, warlock engineers. All those units are definitely very, very susceptible to the arrow fire from the Waystalker. So he's definitely got a bit of a niche here. For a front line, it's simply a horde of Dryads. Not much to be said for these guys. They will crush lower end Skaven infantry like a bug. They're definitely very good for it. On the flanks, we have two Wild Riders over here. These guys are both shielded variants. On the other end, we also have the Regiment for now, Wild Hunters of Kurnus, alongside a single unit of Sisters of Thorn. And these guys are ready to pincer because this map has a bunch of Vanguard positions. So these guys are just ready to collapse inward on my opponent, who's brought a very artillery-heavy build. Now going over my opponent's comp, he is rolling with Skrulk, who's all the way out on the flank here. A little bit of an oddball spot for him. He does have all of his spells. No Liber Bubonicus, interestingly enough. So he's got all of his spells here. No Liber Bubonicus or the Rod of Corruption, but nonetheless he is still a very big threat. He's got a lot of spells. He can definitely be a nuisance in that front line. For my opponent's actual main line, it's a horde of Skaven slaves ready to sort of soak up the initial charge, soak up any arrow fire, which of course kind of likely from elves. They are backed by some Night Runners here to provide some zoning and missile pressure, some Deathglow Bombardiers, which are definitely going to be nasty against the Dryads, and then a whole bunch of Stormmen. So Stormmen, very, very strong against Wood Elf infantry. They'll crush basically everything shy of Wildwood Rangers, and yeah, they're just nasty to deal with. But I'm hoping that with the Wild Riders collapsing their leadership and hitting them from all sides, plus the armor debuffs, we should be able to deal. Finally, a horde of artillery. There are two Warp Lightning Cannons and two Plague Claws scattered throughout, and they are immediately going to open fire on us. Because we do have this huge Vanguard, we are going to be able to close the distance very, very quickly. In the meantime, the Waystalker is going to start booking his way over towards this flank shortly. He's going to start looking to snipe at Skrulk. You can see the cavalry closing the gap here very quickly. Obviously, I threw the Sisters of Thorn into melee position while the Hunters of Kurnus here sneaking through. And you can see the Sisters here kind of skirting around. And I'm not giving my opponent the opportunity to properly interdict. And Orion is going to sit around here looking pretty for a little bit. I kind of forget him. In the meantime, we are getting his full surround here. My opponent a little slow to get his Stormman out here. And in the meantime, we are on top of this Plague Claw. We're on top of these Night Runners. And we're destroying them because they are just... The Wild Riders are brutal. Horn of the Wild Hunt doesn't go off. Orion is now closing the gap here. And the front line is getting demolished. The Wild Hunters are on top of these Deathglow Bombardiers. I probably should have hit them with an Witherer, just to drop their leadership and especially their armor. But oh well, what can you do? Sometimes you just forget. The Waystalker is chipping away at Skrulk, or he will be shortly. But right now he's actually under fire from those very annoying Warp Lightning Cannons, which at this range will obviously hit. That's Sisters of Thorn kind of dodging and weaving, and the front line is buckling because my opponent's Stormmen, which he really needed to be in here against the Dryads, were not in position, and because of that, they just immediately, the Skaven slaves buckled under the Dryad pressure, which is, of course, that's what Dryads are built for, massacring sheep infantry. And so we're able to just plow through. My opponent wasting his Warp Lightning shots here on the Waystalker, who really just isn't that important right now. There's far more nastier things on the field, and the Waystalker is just kind of taking it on the chin. Earthblood does go down on the Wild Riders here. You can't see the Wild Hunters of Kurnus dive on the last functional artillery piece. And with that, my opponent's hopes are basically already dashed in the space of seconds. The Dryads here are flooding through. The Stormmen once again out of position. A Plague does go down, but the Vortex is way behind my Dryads, so it's actually just whiffing and doing nothing there. The Dryads, obviously, they won't win against Stormmen. Stormmen will dumpster Dryad pretty hard, but it just doesn't really matter. Sure, there's Skaven slaves rallying in the distance. You can see this unit routed almost full HP because that's just how brutal a shock there was. And in the meantime, the Wild Rider sweeping through, Stormman hit with the Curse of Honorire, not unable to hold, and that's the leadership break. And it's just a brutal situation. Waystalker, you can see just chipping away at Skrulk. Another shot goes in, Skrulk down another 200 or so HP. He's having a horrible time of it, getting smushed. And at this point, it's basically just this core of Stormmen. And while Stormmen will beat Dryads pretty handily, they are going to sort of take a while to do so. And now Orion's in the pits here. He's taking no prisoners. He's here to wreck some ratties, and yeah, he's just going to be able to destroy them. And you can see he just stabs there and obliterates a bunch of them. Just taking no prisoners. And my opponent's troops, they are rallying, but honestly, right now, it just doesn't. None of it just matters. I do fire a Arrow of Kurnus there, hoping to get a proper sort of Amber Spear type hit, but it misses, and what can you do? But at this point, it's just the Branch Wraith chasing down Skrulk. Most of the infantry's routed off, and my opponent's army is on the ropes, and will be gone soon. Melkos Miasma is going down. Obviously, at this point, I'm just kind of spamming spells just because I had a bunch of Winds of Magic and just looking to melt units down. The Branch Wraith catches Skrulk. Not entirely sure who would win this fight. Maybe Branch Wraith, probably not. Look at Skrulk's stats; they're not bad. But that is going to be a close victory for the Wood Elves, and a pretty brutal sort of snowball. That said, if you're looking for a build to deal with Skaven, the new Skaven especially, this is not a bad one. Against certain compositions, you might find that your opponent will not go. I think my opponent here, big mistake. He invested way too much in shooting. This is like 6,000 gold, nearly 6,000 gold worth of DACA. That is not what you want to be doing. You can invest, say, a quarter of your army, maybe a third of your army into shooting, but half of it is excessive and means that you're not going to be able to defend your backline. My opponent had no high mass to stop my cavalry. He didn't have much or he actually had no anti-large because he brought normal Skaven slaves because he just probably broke. He's got a lot of counters to units that you don't really need countering. Like Deathglow Bombardiers are completely wasted against Wood Elves. Like there's nothing really that you need them bombardiering. If you want something to deal with like 90% of Elf infantry, Stormmen will do the job. And if you need to deal with Wild Rangers, well, kill everything else and then deal with them, or just hit them with like a Pestilent Breath, and the unit will lose like a quarter or half its HP. You really do not need to have Deathglow Bombardiers in this matchup, or even Poison Wind Globes. I think you could have just brought their artillery here, and you would have been in a much better spot, and it would free up some money for Rat Ogres or units like that, Stormmen with Halberds, Spears, that sort of thing. And I think you'd be in a much better spot. But regardless, we're going to hop on over to game number 2, and that is going to be some Wood Elf on Tomb King action. So this time around, we are on the Tarantula Coast, and once again, it's Wood Elf on Vanguard. And this time around, though, against the Tomb Kings, which not necessarily the best idea, I would say. You can generally against Tomb Kings, you might want to play a little more conservatively, but I was on a bit of a streak. I was figuring, yeah, let's do some more Vanguard shenanigans, and that's kind of the build here, and it's actually very similar to the last one. For our Lord, we are rolling with Orion. This is Tarantula Coast, so once again, one of those new island maps. You've got a decent amount of Vanguard options as well. For our Lord, we're rolling with Orion. This time around, I didn't bother with the Horn, because 1, it's kind of expensive, and 2, I didn't really think it would be that useful against the Tomb Kings, because it's very difficult to sweep Tomb Kings aside into like one glorious charge, the way it is with Skaven. With Skaven, if you start snowballing leadership, you can crush them in seconds. So I did bring Hinds of Orion and Hawk's Talons, both very good against cheap Tomb King trash. Cloak of Isha for the heals, of course, and otherwise, Orion is an absolute beast. Our front line is composed of only 4 Dryads, so we couldn't afford that many this time around. And they're backed by Branch Wraith, who, once again, coming in with some pretty decent spells. She's got Terminal Pendulum, Melkos Miasma, Earthblood, Awakening of the Wood, of course, to beat up on squishy Tomb King trash. The other tricks to Shard again for the heals, or for the, the extra damage. Called Woods for the extra melee attack, and then finally Smoke and Mirrors, because that's a pretty nifty spell ability. It helps you close the distance and whatnot. Again, definitely be very helpful. Now, bit of a difference this time is 3 units of Way Watchers, because obviously you can't rely on your quote-unquote heavy cav, really, just your cav, your Wild Riders, shields, when it comes to dealing with Tomb King's constructs. Your only good option, in my opinion, is Way Watchers, War Dancers, maybe, but really Way Watchers is the way to go. And so I did bring 3 units of them, figuring they could perform pretty well. On the flanks, we do have Wild Riders' shields, ready to provide some high mass, harass, and that sort of thing, and a single unit of Sister of the Thorn, once again providing their buffs, debuffs, and all that sort of stuff. Now for my opponent, he decided to go with a very bunkery build. He's got a whole bunch of Skeleton Spears here in the front line, screening for his army, backed by a single squad of Tomb Guard, which obviously not a bad choice in this match. They've got Silver Shields, they'll beat down most lower-end Wood Elf infantry very effectively, and yeah, they're just not bad. There's also a lot of chariot play here. This is potentially nasty. There's a Necrotect. This guy, interesting choice of abilities here. He's not bad at all, but bring Wrath of the Creator as well as Stone Shaper when you don't have many constructs around him at all. It's kind of a waste in my opinion. Chariots don't actually count as constructs, so yeah, that's kind of wasted. That said, he does also have the Restore, which is going to be very useful if he can keep healing his Ushabti. Alongside them, he also does have Arc in the Black, who's got Fate of Buna, Spirit Leech. He didn't bring his Tomb Blade here, but he did bring the Libra Mortis for that physical resist. Of course, does have Might Will Be Done, the Curse, as well as Life Leeching. Finally, there's a huge shooting mob. Now, they are backed by a Necrotect who also has Stone Shaper, as well as the Wrath of the Creator, and he also does have Restore, so even more heals potentially for this blob of nasty Ushabti, which do include the Regiment Round Chosen the Gods. They're also backed by the Blessed Legion of Demonetization, who is immediately unloading on my poor Dryads and doing a little bit of work. Not the most amazing damage for sure, but doing something. Now, unfortunately, we almost immediately take a huge amount of damage here on Branch Rates and Dryads, and my opponent just rushes me with his Chariots. Now, this is very bad, because my Way Watchers just pushed up and started teeing off and revealed themselves by teeing off on the Ushabti. And now these Chariots are plowing through, and I've got nothing to stop them. And my Wild Riders are trying to collapse inward, but because I deployed so wide, they were not in position to interdict. And so the Chariots are kind of doing whatever the hell they feel like, and they're overrunning me very, very quickly. These Way Watchers get completely demolished. You can see losing thousands of HP in seconds. They lost about 1,600 HP, maybe 2,000 HP. This second unit of Way Watchers are getting demolished by Ushabti fire. And although the Wild Riders will destroy these Chariots once they're on top of them, they've already done their damage. These Way Watchers are gone. Orion's trying to get in there and mess things up, but these Way Watchers are gone. The second unit will not be long for this world. And these over here, we actually got our Wild Riders who were looking to shut down these Ushabti, got interdicted by these nasty Necron Horsemen, and that's going to be pretty bad. These guys didn't get their charge, so they're not going to be able to trade super effectively here. They're going to be stuck in a protracted engagement, which isn't what Wild Riders shine in. They're not really good for this extended combat. And so this battle is already going very poorly. Over here, we do have a little win as the carrier get caught by the Sisters of the Thorn, who will demolish them with ease. But these guys do have 40% physical resist, so they just don't give a damn. But elsewhere, Orion did catch his Necrotech, but Way Watchers, look at these guys, down to 23 models, these guys down to 25. And my opponent is just pounding me with archery fire over here. Arkin is running amok, doing whatever the hell he pleases. I did catch him with the Wild Riders, but it's just not enough, and despite the Way Watchers' best efforts, they're not able to get those shots in. These guys actually routed for proximity, or just being glared at by a mean old Arkin. And that archery fire from the Ushabti is just breaking me. If Fate of Buna goes down, the Way Watchers, they completely fall apart. This is just disaster in the making. That said, a few Way Watchers do rally. In the pits, it's a bit of a protracted engagement. So because my opponent was focusing so hard on the Wild Riders, it doesn't mean that his Ushabti, and at least some of his archers, are not entirely committed to destroying stuff here. And because of that, some of these Way Watchers are able to recover here. You can see 25 models, 17. They're still a potent force. Way Watchers are no pushovers. They're able to get some volleys here on this Necrotect. Orion gets a Javelin to his rear, and that Necrotect goes down like a 9-pin. And now Orion packs up, grabs his spear, and he's coming hunting. He's coming to avenge his fallen kin and get down on Arkin's butt and wreck him. And you can see Arkin there taking some raking fire as he's chasing these Wild Riders off the field. Probably should have swung inward to deal with these Way Watchers a little sooner, because now he's taking some pounding fire, and definitely there's a lot of stuff going on. Over here you can see the Ushabti are pushing up to get more shots. In the pits, it's a bit of a mess. We do drop a Curse of Honor Air, debuffing all these troops. The Branch Wraith is in there as well, providing her support and helping the Dryads win out in this pocket here, defeat these Tomb Guard and whatnot. That said, the Ushabti is still very much intact. The Legion of Demonetization helping out a huge amount, making these non-AP troops fight much better against Dryads. And here in the pits, things are disastrous. The Dryads are getting wrecked. The Ushabti are going to get in there and really mess things up. And there is still a unit of Necron Horsemen, I believe, currently chasing off the poor Wild Riders. In the meantime, Arkin over here does get on top of the Way Watchers. He's making a run for it. You can see Orion there trying to intercept him and misses because he's Orion and he's just not that good at catching him. A Way Watcher does get run over. He has a bit of a bad run, but this time Orion actually managed to catch Arkin, because as Arkin came around for another pass, he gets intercepted, and suddenly things are a lot worse, because although he's doing some damage here to the Way Watchers, he Spirit Leeches Orion here. Orion is pretty good at He's able to get some shots in, or the Way Watcher is able to get some shots in. He's able to force Arkin away. And now Arkin's in a bad spot, so keep in mind Arkin is already down to 700 or so HP. The Way Watcher fire is now going to start pouring in, and Orion stops and starts lobbing javelins at this posterior. So he immediately loses like 400 HP. Orion just does stupid amounts of damage. His leadership buckles, and Arkin the Black is no more. So suddenly this balance of power, which is pretty handily out of my favor, does suddenly shift back a little bit towards middle as we remove Arkin from the field. Unfortunately, things are going less well overall. You can see the Tomb Guard here kind of rallying. These Wild Riders in very bad shape, and a summon of Ushapti is going down. Unfortunately, not on top of my Weight Watchers. My opponent is going to try to use it here to destroy these Dryads, and it's definitely not a great situation. The Branch Wraith here going toe-to-toe with the Necrotech, Battle of the Support Lords. The Dryad there with her corpse trophy on her back, and we do get a Awakening of the Wood going down, so sending skeletons flying with their very low armor. They're very susceptible to that, and we are trying to get on top of this Necrotech. In the meantime, Orion is providing more support with his Hounds, plowing through these bad boys a little bit, doing some damage, and helping the Branch Wraith fall back to help against the Tomb Guard. In the meantime, over here, the Sisters of the Thorn are getting demolished, but Orion manages to catch these Ushapti. And the thing is, Orion against Ushapti isn't really a bad fight. Orion, he's only got 40 armor, but he's Orion. He's got anti-large. He's a pretty nasty beast in melee. He's going to be able to deal with these guys pretty handily, especially when they're clumped up like this. Unfortunately, he's taking some rear fire, but that's also affecting these Ushapti too. And now we are able to get some Weight Watcher fire coming in on these Ushapti, and that's going to be a bit of a distraction because my opponent is going to start shifting focus onto those Weight Watchers. In the meantime, Orion does pack up and starts running away. And here in the pits, we are holding surprisingly steady. Shield of Thorns coming in from the Sisters. The Earthblood holding my boys together a little bit, or at least keeping Dryads in there. And the Sisters here barely skirting the edge of the fight, trying to get their remaining spells off. I wanted to make sure that I at least got value out of those. And Orion comes in here with the spear, going after this very nasty Necrotech. And Orion right now has, although he's being debuffed right now by the Legion of Demonetization, he does have the Cloak of Isha going. So he does have, against missiles, he's got 20% missile resist, 44% ward save. He's incredibly tanky. And he doesn't really have to worry too much about it. And so really the only thing my opponent can do here is beat him in melee, but he's running out of melee to deal with Orion. That said, things are coming very close. Orion down to 500 HP, barely healing through things here. And of course he doesn't have the best melee defense, only 40. It's not something to write home about. So we're going to disengage here, looking to juke around. Fortunately, the Weight Watchers kind of get wrecked. These Skeleton Spears rally and stop grumbling. And the Branch Wraith here is trying her very best to hold things together, dropping an Earthblood on Orion, who's of course unbreakable, and healing him up a little bit as he starts jabbing the Ushapti down. And he's able to bring a few models there. Now, in the meantime, my opponent is now in a much more dire situation. Orion, of course, unbreakable, so even if he manages to rout my entire army to army losses, which it probably is pretty close to that, he still needs to deal with Orion somehow. And killing 1,000 HP worth of Orion, who still has 3,000 HP potential to heal, is very difficult when you don't have good melee left. This Necrotech's about to get wrecked, and with that goes the last really competitive melee unit here. These spears, of course, could just get cycle charge. And the Ushapti don't have great melee stats, only 24 melee attack. It's pretty terrible. 65 AP, also not the greatest weapon strength against a guy who's more about ward saves than actual armor. And you can see the rain of steel rain there coming down and wrecking some of these poor Blessed Legion. And here come the Dryads. They did rally. A handful of them did come back. There is, however, still a unit of Necron Horsemen that my opponent forgot about. So they are coming back now, sweeping down from the hills. They're actually healed up a good bit because of the Realm of Souls. And these guys could potentially clutch things out because they do have decent melee stats. The Orion, of course, anti-large, pretty nasty. Nasty in his own right. Branch Wraith is in here alongside him, and he is fighting tooth and nail, beating down these Chosen of the Gods, and doing quite the number on them. They're now down to 3,100 HP, and every swing Orion gets, it's going to be big. The Necron Horsemen do plow within, and they're going to try to get some damage. So unfortunately, the the second unit of Dryads here is on the prowl, coming in from behind, and they're going to help stabilize things. And keep in mind, Dryads, of course, immune to psychology, so they're not just going to roll over and rout immediately from a charge, especially with the Blessed Legion crumbling and the Skeleton Spears here on the verge of crumbling. So they're not really able to hold together. Orion is in the pits here, murderizing the Chosen of the Gods. Another Earthblood goes down, helping keep some of these troops together. And that is going to be big. It's going to help us stick around just a little bit longer, help us deal with some of these troops. Orion fighting tooth and nail at 1,300 or 1,200 HP. And if we can get rid of these spears at this point, if we can get rid of the Necron Horsemen, we can definitely probably clutch it out. These Ushapti are sitting here being sad because they can't get shots. And I think right now my opponent should have really tried to get shots into the Dryads because the simple fact is you're not going to get shots on Orion, at least not right now. So more Ushapti are diving in here, trying to help out against Orion. And it's just not working. Orion is tanking it. He gets another Hounds of Orion to go down. You can't see the doggos just piling through there, doing quite a bit of hurt to these crumbling and disintegrating skeleton units, making them completely collapse. And that does mean that now the Ushapti are going to be isolated, and fighting Orion one-to-one, mano-a-mano, is not their idea of good fun. Orion's an absolute beast against these guys. He's got 40 melee defense. He's got that ward save. and he is destroying their faces. That said, right now with this more limited situation, with his more limited number of troops fighting him, he is suddenly much more exposed to range fire. So as these Ushabti on the periphery go down, more fire is going to start pouring in from this unit over here, potentially picking away at the Branch Wraith or Orion. My opponent there trying to get some shots in, but once again, ward save coming in clutch. Orion has 64%, I think, protection against missiles. He doesn't give a damn, and he's able to tear those Ushabti to shreds, deal with the Chosen of the Gods. And next step, of course, is going to be to overrun the Ushabti. Necron Horseman here trying to come in last second, having overrun the Dryads, but the Branch Wraith is there. And the Branch Wraith, as you saw probably in my video against Indy, the Branch Wraith can be a pain to destroy. Now, I do try to get a Hawk's Talon there, but it whiffs. But it doesn't really matter at this point, because Orion is in his element, murderizing Ushabti Great Bows, destroying these large, just carrying the Wood Elves to a great victory. And Necron Horsemen or not, they're not going to win it. They do knock him over, so the King of the Woods there laying face first in the mud, but he gets let back up like a champ. And it's going to pulverize these boys. So if these Ushabti just getting javelined in the face, Orion just magically recovers another javelin there, and they disintegrate. And that is going to be a game. So an incredibly close pure victory for the Wood Elves. And really showing how Orion can hard carry a game when all goes south. Now in hindsight, quite frankly, the Vanguard build, not the brightest idea. The Wild Riders were out of position from a protective stance. They weren't able to collapse in and to seal up the push made by the Skeleton Archers. I should have focused the Chariots earlier with the Way Watchers as well. And not doing that hurt me a lot. And yeah, I just think Vanguarding wasn't that smart. I probably would have been better off hanging back a tiny bit, or playing a little more safely. I do think it's also, I should have been more astute, I think, with my Wild Riders. Both units of Wild Riders got pulverized pretty bad for relatively little game. Well, especially one unit of them got pulverized, basically, fighting Necron Horsemen, which is pretty bad. That's not what you want happening for them. And poor Way Watchers should have definitely been better managed, and I think that was really where the game hung in the balance. Now, for my opponent, my only real critique of his build was the use of was putting the two abilities on the Necrotect, the Stone Shaper and Wrath of the Creator, because useless when you're running around on a chariot, not supporting constructs. Chariots don't count as constructs, so I think that was like a waste of probably 200 gold that could have gone elsewhere. I might have clutched out that game. I don't know. It was a pretty tight match. Otherwise, I didn't have much critique of the play there. I thought it was definitely a pretty close to run thing. I think a little bit of greed there with Arkan hurt him a lot, because getting caught by Orion was brutal. Orion, whether with Javelin or Stabbing Spear, is just disgusting, and he can do a lot of hurt. And I think my opponent underestimated that at his own cost. That said, well played to Major Pain here. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it entertaining and fun. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions, be sure to leave them down below, and I'll respond as soon as I'm able. And with that, I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.